Okay, hey everyone. In this lesson, we are going to begin setting up our Godot project. So here I am inside of the project manager. And the first thing we're going to do is click on the new project button and we're going to create ourselves a new project. So for the project name, we can call this pretty much whatever we want. I'm just going to call this our AI cards game, AI card game. We can then go find a project path and create a new folder. Then click on create new folder to actually create a new folder in that directory and click create and edit. Okay, so inside of the editor here, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by creating our base scene, which is going to be of 2D. So we'll click on 2D scene right here for the root node. Let's rename it to main, as that's what I generally like to do with my main scenes. We can then save this to our file system as main.tscn, just like so, and there we go. Now for this course, we are also going to have some assets that we need to import, and these can be found in the course files tab. There should be a downloadable assets zip file. I recommend you open that up, extract the contents, and inside you should then find a sprites folder, which contains a number of different sprites here with all these weird names, and these all correlate to a card. For example, DK stands for Diamond King, D2, Diamond 2, C3, Clubs 3. So if we open up one of these images, you can see that it is basically just an image of a card, and that is what we're going to be using. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click and drag this sprites folder into our file system here. That's going to import it, and if we open it up, you'll see that we have all of these images to use. So we can just drag and drop them in to our scene here, and there they are. But one thing you may notice is that if we zoom in, it's rather blurry, and these images by themselves are meant to be pixel art, so we do not want these blurry pixels. Now, how do we fix that? Well, what we can do is go up to Project Settings, then go down on the left-hand side to where we have our textures, and then you should see where it says Default Texture Filter. We're going to change that from linear to nearest. And what that's going to do is if we exit out, as you can see, all our pixels are going to be nice and crisp, and they're not going to be blurring together like before. So we can delete that card for now since we don't need it there exactly at this moment. Something we're going to do is add in a camera, because right now, I deleted the card, but we actually need to bring it back for a second. If we bring back a card and add a couple more in here, what you'll notice is that if we press play and we click select current, as you can see, these cards are very small and we can't really, it might be a bit hard to find the details in them. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a camera that we can then zoom in a little bit. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and create a brand new camera 2D node right here. Okay. Let's actually then move these cards over into the center. All right, so our camera 2D, if we press play again, you'll notice that the cards are still the same distance away. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to where we have the zoom, and we're going to set the zoom to be about, let's just say 1.5. Okay, so we're going to be about 50% zoomed in now. If we press play, the cards are a bit bigger. Okay, so you can see now they're a bit more clear, and of course with this camera then you can add all sorts of things, camera shake, movement, but we're going to probably keep a static camera for now. Something else is that the background is, well, gray. And generally, if you're playing cards, if you're playing poker, you probably want it to be on a nice green felt backdrop. So let's do that as well. Now to do that, I feel like the easiest way, if you are just having this game as your project, is to go up to Project Settings, and then we can go down to where we have our textures, and underneath that you see Renderer. Not renderer, we're going to click on environment actually, and you see the default clear color. This is basically what color is going to be rendered if there is nothing to render on the screen pretty much. So we're going to click on this, and we are then going to move this over to a bit of a green. Okay, so let's just try and find the correct green color. I'd say something like this perhaps. There we go. We can then close out of that, press play again, and there we go. We have our nice green backdrop there. And it contrasts pretty nicely with the cards as well, I think. Okay, so we have our camera, we've got our cards, we've got our backdrop. Now, what else do we need? Well, there's a lot of things we need. So we're going to set up pretty much the basics of what a player is going to have. Now, there are going to be two players in this game. There's going to be the player, us, who we are going to refer to as me, because having two players and one of them being the player, us, is going to be a bit confusing. So from here on out, when I say me, that is going to refer to the player that we are going to control. And the player that is going to be controlled by the AI is going to be called AI. So we have me and we have AI. Now, both me and AI are going to have a number of different elements and nodes. First of all, each are going to have their 5 cards in front of them. So we are going to be at the bottom, the AI is going to be at the top, and on the left-hand side, we're going to have some text displaying our current bet and our number of chips. And for us, we're also going to have some extra buttons that are going to allow us to modify our bet and also commit to it as well as fold. Okay, so let's do that now. I'm going to delete these nodes right here since we don't need them at the moment. And I am going to go ahead and create ourselves a brand new node 2D. Now for this, I'm going to call this one me. Okay, it's in the center here. And now we need 5 cards basically just listed out. So I'm just going to go and drag in a card like this. I'm going to click on it, make it a child of me. Okay, so if we move around the me thing then, that card follows. Now with this card, we want it in the center, so let's go transform position, set that to 0, 0, 0. Now with this, we want to sort of align them horizontally here, and it's going to be pretty hard, we might have to do maths with the position, but an easier way is to go up here and click on the grid snap, and that's going to enable grid snapping, which is going to allow us to do this. So with this card, we're going to have it here. We're then going to copy and paste it or duplicate it with Control D. We're going to move it over a bit here. And then we're going to do that again over here, again on this side, and again on that side. So there we have our 5 cards. I'm going to rename them, and actually let's order them as well, just so it's a bit easier to understand. So we'll put D5 at the top here, this one here, this one there, this one there, and this one there. So we're going to rename them to card 1, card 2, card 3, card 4, and card 5. Okay, so we have our 5 different cards here, and these are going to be changed, of course, during gameplay. We're going to change their values. For the AI, we're going to have them actually have a back-facing card, so we can't actually see what they have. Now, as well as this, we also need some text on the left-hand side here explaining what our current bet is and how many chips we have. So right-click on me, add child node. We're going to create a label. Okay, press Q to go to the move tool or the select mode. And we're going to drag it over to the left-hand side here, make it a bit bigger. And then for the text, we're going to say bet, colon, and then we'll say something like 1. And then on a new line, we'll go chips, and then that'll be like 8 or something like that. Now, if you want to change the font size and change the other settings, we can go over to where we have label settings and create a brand new one of those. Open that up. We can change the line spacing. Let's just say 0, so it's a bit down, and if you want to change font, you can also change the font size here, but we're going to leave that at its default 16 for now. Let's rename this node to be our stats text, and if we press play, we can see what it looks like, and there we go. Okay, so that is pretty much the basics of what these are going to include. So we're going to have one for ourselves at the bottom and one for the enemy, or one for the AI at the top, and we're going to later on then add in more buttons for us. So for me, let's move this down here to the bottom of the screen. We are then going to duplicate it and move it up to the top. And instead of calling it me, we're going to call it AI. Okay, so we have our cards at the bottom and the AI's cards at the top. So let's save that. Let's press play and see what it looks like. And there we go. Okay, so this is basically what our game is going to look like, and then when it's our turn, we're going to have some buttons on the left-hand side to allow us to basically increase, decrease our bet, fold, or commit our bet, okay? And then the enemy, of course, the AI, will automatically do their moves. So in the next lesson, we're going to start looking at our deck, which is basically going to be a script that is going to manage all of the cards in the game. It's going to manage dealing them out. It's going to manage, shuffling them, getting a random one. And then after that, we're also going to be looking at setting up each of our individual players and having them get cards dealt to them, as well as, doing stuff when it is their turn. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all then in the next lesson. Welcome back, everyone. In this lesson, we are going to be setting up our deck. So to do this, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and create a brand new node. Now, this isn't going to be a node 2D, but rather it is just going to be a blank node, okay? The most basic node you can create in this game. It's not going to have a position, rotation, or scale. It's just going to be an entity that exists. Now, the reason why is because this isn't going to hold any more nodes or anything visual, but rather it is just going to be holding a script, and that script is going to be in charge of our deck. So let's rename this node to be deck, Let's move it up to the top. And we're going to add also a script called deck.gd. Now, what is this script going to involve? Well, pretty much this script is going to contain an array of all of the cards in the game, as well as basically having the ability to then deal out cards and get random cards as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the ready and process functions since we are not going to be needing those, and instead we're going to create some variables. So first of all, we're going to have a variable called full deck, and this is going to be equal to a new array. Now, the elements of this array we're going to actually enter in here, and pretty much what this is going to be is it's going to be a pretty big array with a lot of stuff, but so this is what it's going to look like. And it may take you some time to go ahead and actually copy and enter all these in, but pretty much we are entering all 52 cards in our deck. So we have C2 for clubs 2, clubs 3, clubs 4, so on and so forth, all the way up to ace, jack, king, and queen. We then have the same for diamonds, for hearts, and for spades. Okay, so we have all the cards in our deck listed out right here as an array. Now, it is important that each card name has to correlate with its corresponding sprite. Okay, so you see here, C4, we have C4 down here for 4 of clubs. And yeah, basically that's what we're going to do. So go ahead, set this up right now. You might need to pause the video as you go ahead and enter in all of these numbers right here. I'm just going to pan over so you can have a look at what they all look like. And yeah, so once you have that done, we can move on. And the next variable we need is going to be our current deck. So current deck is going to be equal to an empty array. Now, the reason why we have 2 decks here is because the full deck is going to basically be the reference, whereas the current deck is what we're actually going to be removing cards from, drawing them, and so forth. So next up, we need our me and AI. So I'm just going to create an onReady variable for me, and this is going to be equal to the me node right here. And to easily get that, we can simply just click and drag it in like so, and it's then going to get a reference to that me node. Same thing for the AI. We can get and drag in the AI like so, and there we go. Now we're going to have 2 functions in this script. We're going to first of all have a function called deal cards. Okay. And we are then going to have a function called new card. Now, the new card function is just going to basically return a random card from the current deck and then remove it as well. So to do this, we're going to create a variable called card, and this is going to be equal to our current deck, and we want to get an element from 0 to 50, 51, okay? So how do we get that? Well, to do this, we can call the round I function. This is going to get us a random integer number from, I think, 0 to whatever the integer max limit is, so in the billions, okay? But we want to get that not in the billions, but we want to get that between our range. So to do this, we can then use the modular symbol, which is a %, and then go current deck dot size. Okay, so pretty much what the modular operator does is it basically gets the remainder from a division. Okay, so it's basically going to divide this by this and then get the remainder. And since we are dividing a random number by 52, the remainder is going to basically be anywhere from 0 to the length of our deck. Okay, so this is basically how we can get then a random element from our array. Then what we want to do is we want to remove this card from our current deck so we don't accidentally draw it twice. So current deck dot erase card, and then we want to return the card. Now up here in the deal cards function, this is where we are going to basically deal cards to the player, to us and the enemy AI. So first of all, we need to create our current deck. So we can go current deck equals full deck dot duplicate. Okay, so this is basically going to create a copy of the array elements and set them inside of this one. Then what we can do is we can create a variable called me cards equals, we're going to create an array and we're just then going to go new card. Okay, this is basically just the brute force way. We could use a loop, but honestly, I think this is easier because we're always going to have 5 cards at the start. So we just want to paste this then, 5 times, so 3, 4, 5. We then want to do the same for the AI cards. So AI cards equals new card, new card, new card, new card, new card. And there we go. So both us and the AI are going to get 5 new random cards when the deal cards function is called. And then down here is where we are going to actually assign them to both the us and the AI. So here we'll go assign cards to me and AI. But we don't have that functionality in just yet. Instead, we're going to be working on that in the next lesson. So in the next lesson, we are going to make a start on the player script, which is what both me and the AI are going to have attached to it, which is going to manage our card sprites. It's going to manage our current cards. It's going to manage our bet. It's going to manage our chips. And yeah, that's basically going to be the controller for each of the players. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all then in the next lesson.